The following program does not necessarily reflect the opinions and viewpoints of the staff and management of this station.
Welcome to the wonderful world of seniors, the best of all worlds. You now have the time, resources, and ability to enjoy what you have worked for all your life. So let's explore the many possibilities available to seniors on Senior World Radio. Senior World Radio is your source for senior citizens-related topics, information, and entertainment. Now, here is your host of Senior World Radio, Glenn Howard.
A recent New York Times article reported that in 1883, Chancellor Otto von Bismarck of Germany announced that he would pay a pension to any non-working German over the age of 65, thus setting the arbitrary world standard for the exact year at which old age begins. By 1935, Francis Townsend of California proposed mandatory retirement and suggested the government pay a pension of up to $200 a month, which at that time was equal to the average salary, if they would retire. President Franklin D. Roosevelt was horrified at the prospects of Townsend's radical generosity and proposed the Social Security Act of 1935, which made workers pay for their own old age insurance. But some people have kind of scoffed at the word retire and instead have used their mature years to do things that are new and exciting. And an illustration of one of those kind of people is my guest right here today, Jim Orebaugh. Jim is back with me again. Hello, Jim.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. It's good to hear from you.
It's so good to have you back. When we started Senior World Radio way back about 7 years ago, Jim was my co-host. And week after week, in fact, at one time there we were doing 2 hours a week, and just having a great time interviewing an awful lot of people.
We sure did.
That was fun.
A lot of interesting people.
But we found some more interesting people, I think, right now. You know, at that time we were getting important people. We were trying to get hold of the director of the CIA and senators and members of the House Representatives and important people. We've started looking for Oklahoma's incredible seniors, folks who are really not known, not famous, but who have done incredible things. And I'm finding they're wonderful, wonderful stories.
Absolutely.
In fact, I've got a lady I'm going to be interviewing here in a couple of weeks who just celebrated her 100th birthday. And she's the gal who, her and her husband had a handicapped child. Together they started a school that has become one of Oklahoma's leading schools for handicapped children right now. And I'm very eager to talk to her. So there's some great people out there who have done some wonderful things.
I don't think many of us ever think about really retiring. Sometimes I think we're forced into it, and by that I mean society seems to say, you guys are through, you've had your chance, we're going to put you aside.
Get out of the way, sit down in the rocking chair and watch us do.
But they forget we've been there, done that, and we're a little smarter than the average bear. And if you leave us alone, we'll go out and do some great things.
I think we'll go out and save the world. Jim, you're a good example of that. As a matter of fact, what did you start in? What was your first career?
My first career was with IBM, and I started by selling typewriters right here in Oklahoma City.
Selling typewriters
for IBM. And back in that day and time, the Selectric had just been introduced.
Oh, yes, with a magic ball.
And the Selectric, everybody wanted to see it. There weren't enough demonstrators to go around. They had given all of us salesmen, 2 or 3 demos that we could take out and give to prospects. But it was so interesting at one point where you would walk through one of the bank lobbies and people would come up and say, let me see that. And we were plugging it into the electrical outlet in the bank lobby of the First National Bank and demonstrating the typewriter. So that was my first job.
Interestingly enough, I had a friend the other day whose daughter was looking for a job and got a call from this lady. The first question was, honey, do you know how to operate a Selectric typewriter?
Well, remember,
the kids don't.
Well, remember then that and the Selectrics had either a Pike or an Elite ball on it. Uh-huh. And then the really top-of-the-line typewriter for IBM was the Executive, and it was a proportional spacing machine. And you worked it by letter widths and that sort of thing, and it came out justified and all of that. So that was the top of the line. And as time went on, while they merged a lot of technologies, and you have what you have today. But when you said, I got tickled when you talked about my first real job was one of the things that I think took me up to this point now. When I was about 8 years old, my father was a baker, and he had a bakery in Hartshorn, Oklahoma, and my uncle owned a big bakery in McAllister, Oklahoma. So I was raised around bakers. But back in that day and time, there weren't an awful lot of things to do in Hartshorn, Oklahoma, in 1948. And there were people still driving wagons and teams into town on Saturday. And the war had been over 3 years, a lot of people still coming back. But one of the things that people did was watch whatever activity was on the street. One of those activities was with a fellow they called Rodeo Ike, who painted signs.
Rodeo Ike.
Everybody came to watch Rodeo Ike paint signs because there wasn't much else to do. And one day Rodeo Ike came to me and my brother, and he said, I want you to sell balloons to the people that come to watch me paint the signs. I thought, what an entrepreneurial idea. At this point in my life, I look back on that. And he said, I'll give you a quarter or a balloon. Well, now let me tell you something. In 1948, a movie was 10 cents. Popcorn was a nickel. That was 2 movies and some popcorn.
There you go.
Well, at some point, his wife, who read cards for people and that sort of thing, I'd gone up one morning to wait for Ike to get the balloons ready. And she, without looking up, said, tell Ike you want 10%. And I said, what? She said, just tell him you want 10%. Well, when he came out with the balloons in his hand, I stammered, Ike, I want 10%. And I thought he was going to choke right there, but 10% of what? And she says, tell him you want 10% of what you sell. Well, I think he was a little bit afraid of his wife, and that day I made 40 cents. I was the richest kid in the world. And at that point I knew that whatever I was going to do in life, it was going to involve professional selling.
And do it on a percentage.
So good, and do it on a percentage.
Right.
So excuse me for digressing.
That
was where it all started.
That's where you get, I found it very interesting. Many of the early experiences in life really is what turns a person into the profession they go to. I read a while back, the majority of senators, House of Representatives, big politicians, basically came out of the church. They were in a small church where they had chances to speak. They had chance to perform in front of people. They learned people skills.
Right.
That's really what led them. So experiences like this are really those motivating things, and I'm afraid our schools sometimes are not really providing those kind of experiences or giving us the opportunities to do those kind of things. We're too restricting in our laws and policies and practices.
Well, they don't teach us how to think.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. How do you think outside the box? How do you create? How do you solve a problem? And that's not done by rote. That's something that you have to experience and take a look at the problem and address it in your own unique way, I think. And I don't think we change. I think over a lifetime, if you get a chance to really be yourself, that comes out again.
Yeah. Anyway, is the blue shirt, wasn't the IBM known for their blue shirts or their uniform?
Couldn't wear blue shirts.
Okay.
To wear white shirts. And a suit. And about a year before I came with IBM, they wore hats. Had to have a hat. And
looked the part.
Looked the part. That changed. But
and from there, where'd you go?
Well, I went from there to 5 of us left IBM the very same day and opened a company here in Oklahoma City called Computer Management Corporation. And we were doing the billing work for Baptist Hospital, for Jane Phillips Hospital in Bartlesville, and for Deaconess Hospital. And like I said, we all left IBM the same day, and the problem was that we learned the first lesson in business, which was that we only had 2 systems engineers with us, and we outsold their ability to produce in about 5 minutes. So once again, that got worked out, but we were the very first to do outsourcing for the hospital industry. And back at that time, IBM had a package called SHAS, Shared Hospital Accounting Systems. And that's where we all came from and decided that there was a future in doing hospital billing. And sure enough,
so you start out with a big corporation and then get an idea and pull out on your own and make it happen.
We did, and then that went on for a couple of years, and one of our biggest customers was the Oklahoma University Health Sciences Center. And from there, I went to a company called Data General, another computer company, And if you remember back in 1968, that was the year that they completed all the programming for landing a man on the moon. So they dumped all of those technicians onto the market, and they all went out and started opening their own companies. Back in that day and time, Control Data and IBM sort of ruled the world out there, along with Sperry. And IBM was selling machines with the software bundled. And there was something called a consent decree that came back and said they couldn't do that anymore. They had to break it up. And oh, by the way, they said nobody else could work on their equipment but IBM specialists, and you couldn't buy the equipment. You had to lease it. The consent decree destroyed all that. They had to start selling the equipment. They started to let other people work on the hardware. So a lot of people left, started their own businesses, and that's why 68 was kind of a red-letter year back then for American business at the time.
So you spent your career pretty well with that up until what, close to retirement time?
I went to work from there with a company in Allen, Texas, Intercom, which was a voice data switching company. And then from there, I went to Sperry Unisys, and they hired me to come back to Oklahoma City and gave me an account worldwide. I had the Hertz Corporation, and we installed reservation systems all around the world. And I decided when I retired I'd come back to Oklahoma, and didn't really want to go anywhere. I wanted to come home. And I don't know if I can say this on the air or not, but Hertz are one of those companies that were very, very pointed about the fact that you may get your paycheck from Sperry or IBM, but you worked for Hertz, and don't you forget it. And they were constantly tasking us to do things. And one of the things that they did was tell us that one of their big customers was a company out of Minneapolis, Starkey Hearing Aids. And Starkey had developed a product for telephone headsets, and they used the same technology that you use to make a hearing aid. It was a mold in the ear, and ears are like fingerprints. No two are the same. So they make that mold and put that in your ear and put electronics on it, and you've got a very comfortable headset. And what happened was that they wanted to use this for their help desk here in Oklahoma City, and the VP came in one day, had one of those in his ear, and I said, "What is that?" And he threw me a check, and he says, "You're going to be the sales representative for Starkey headsets in Oklahoma City."
Jim, we got to take a break here. We've come down here to about halfway through this show, but I want to get back with you just after the break and start talking a little bit more about when you came to the retirement period, how you re-geared and started this thing all over again. I'm Glenn Howard, Senior World Radio, visiting with Jim Orebaugh, good old friend who was my co-host years ago and has proven that simply because you pass 65, you don't have to quit. Hey, we're going to be coming right back, so please don't go away.
You're nobody till somebody loves you.
Have you ever had a problem, but it seemed like there was no one who could help? You spent hours calling around, being referred from one place to the next. Well, not anymore. I want to tell you about a free and easy-to-use service in Oklahoma. 211 is a simple 3-digit phone number to get help or to give help when you don't know where to turn. Dialing 211 only takes a minute, and you are connected with a caring Oklahoman who will help you find the assistance you've been looking for. With access to over 13,000 programs, Heartline 211 can connect you to local resources for many different needs, including health care, food, counseling, rent assistance, disability assistance, job services, and much more. 211 is a service of Heartline, a United Way partner agency. 211, the right first call to get help or give help 24 hours a day.
Hi, my name's Jason Ledlow, president of UT Phone, the ultimate telephone service. We're proud to be a sponsor of Senior World Radio with Glenn Howard. UT Phone is dedicated to providing Oklahomans affordable telephone service all across our great state. We have Lifeline home phone service starting at just $1.95. That's right, just $1.95, and most of Oklahoma's seniors qualify for this reduced home phone service. They get to keep their old home phone number, and it even includes long distance. Another great feature of UT Phone's customers really like is that it includes repair service. That's right, any repairs at no additional charge. With many telephone services charging $40 to $50 per month, it makes sense to switch your service to UT Phone. This service is a federal program that is provided through the Universal Service Fund. There is only one per household, so make it UT Phone's home phone service for $1.95. Give us a call at 800-996-0098. Again, call 800-996-0098.
I've made up my mind.
Welcome back to Senior World Radio. I'm Glenn Howard. My special guest today is Jim Orebaugh. Jim was co-host with me a long time ago. Guy who has had a lot of experiences. As a matter of fact, most of it in the computer business, but a good example of those kind of people that simply because you reach 65, they don't give you a Social Security check and put you in a rocking chair. Jim's made some things happen. Jim, we were talking just before the break. You had gotten involved as a salesperson with a hearing aid company.
Well, once again, I was the representative for Sperry Unisys to Hertz. And as I told you, Hertz were very good about asking you to join their team. You might get your paycheck someplace else, but you worked for Hertz. And one of the things they did was put me in touch with Starkey hearing aids because Hertz wanted to buy some of those for their help desk. And they, to make a long story a little longer, he gave me a check for so many dollars and said there's going to be a representative from Starkey that's going to come down and teach you how to do this. The thing was, I not only helped Hertz, but I went out on my own and put together about 60 people that were buying these headsets because they would see them at Hertz. Now, that's the jump-off point. About that time came around time for me to retire, and I thought what I would do was put together a website that sold these headsets. And my first customer was a company out of Chicago called Bird X.
Okay, now why in the world, though, at the age of 65, if you have a Social Security, you probably got some good retirement built up. What happened to that dream of sitting beside the lake in your own little boat or on the rocking chair and fishing and enjoying the life that you've earned?
I had spent so much time traveling with all of my computer companies. I think I have 2 million miles on one airline alone. And I got to go all over the world, and I decided I'm through with that. I don't want to do anything but just enjoy myself. And the greatest thing about it is enjoy selling and what I'm doing. And I meet such great, interesting people. When I retired, I decided I would put this website together, sell headsets, and the first customer was Bird X out of Chicago. And then I was down selling to the city of Oklahoma City, and they asked, we want some headsets, but by the same token, do you know anybody that does bird control work? I said, yeah, I've got a customer that does that. He said, well, maybe they'd like to bid on this. So I asked my customer, Bird X, if they'd like to bid on the city of Oklahoma City's bird control business, and they said, sure. And he put us something together, and I called him back and said, well, I've got this proposal. Are you going to send somebody down to present it to the city? He said, sure. You print it off and take it down there. And that's the day that I got into my greatest, I could say, activity ever. It's been something fantastic, and that was in 2001.
Jim, I can't think of anything much further apart than working from computers to, I started to say killing birds. You don't kill them, do you?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we get on a good first-name basis with most of them.
Okay.
But keep in mind, I said, I'm always going to be a salesman. I don't care what the product is. If I understand it, it's very easy to go out and give somebody one of their reasons to buy it, okay? So this came
give
naturally.
Somebody one of their reasons to buy it.
That's the secret to sell it.
Wow.
But at any rate, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, hey, this could be good. And we happened to get our name in the paper. We didn't get the bid, but we got our name in the paper. And I got a phone call from an organization here in the city that said, can you come out and get rid of the birds in our parking garage? And we said, well, we'll come and try. And we got a contract with those people for 2 years. And from there, we expanded into Texas, Missouri, Arkansas. We go pretty much all over. But it's not hurting the birds. It's cleaning up the bird messes and the damage that they can do with that. But it's okay as long as you keep them out of certain places, and we do that by bird netting and by certain ledge products that keeps them from a particular area.
I'm amazed how many businesses start with a proprietor who is 65 years of age or older.
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Kentucky Fried Chicken certainly did. Even going back to Bible, it was really Moses that was called at 80 years of age to start his work.
Right.
But so often it seems like people do come up to that age when it's time, most people think time to quit, that you have time to stop and reflect and experiment with something new and give it a try. But I would have never thought you would have gone from computers to netting against birds.
Well, it's interesting how things progress, isn't it? And part of that was because I knew so many people and had worked in those areas before and had a customer base that I was conversant with. So it was very easy to pick up the phone and call somebody. And we had two other things going for us over a period of time. One is that we're a veteran-owned business.
Okay.
That helps for any, and the general contractors like that because they get a 5% set aside if they hire us. And that's been a real ace in the hole for us. And it gets to the point where they don't ask anymore. They just say, go do it, and we'll make sure you're paid. They don't even ask how much it costs. Just get it done.
Get the job done. I hadn't really thought that birds was such a problem until here a while back I went to the grocery store up there in Edmond where I live, and I happened to park under a tree. And when I came out of the grocery store, it looked like somebody had painted my car with bird dew.
Exactly.
But it can be much more of a problem than that. I think you do a lot of work, do you not, around the military bases? And birds can be a major problem, can they not?
They are a major problem, but primarily it's the droppings and it's the damage they do to the structure. And architects, bless their hearts, seem to love to build buildings that have little cubby holes in them so that somebody could get up there and put a nest. And the thing to do is keep them out of it. But one of the things that you really become aware of is how intelligent a flock is, especially pigeons. It's like playing chess. If you close them off of one area, they'll find another. Or they'll attack where you've gone. They'll do anything to come back to an area that they've been in. And you watch the intelligence of that and how persistent they are. And we've even had them come down and have lunch with us. They're really something to watch. They're aerodynamically perfect. Yeah, they make a mess, but by the same token, they're a very interesting bird.
My wife, for some reason, her hair seems to attract birds. We were in Trafalgar Square in London, and first time she really got dive bombed by a pigeon. There's pigeons galore there.
Right.
But frequently, several times since, walking down the street or sidewalk or whatever, pigeons decide that her hair looks like a nice place for them to leave a deposit.
Right.
And that's been a very frustrating thing to her. Jim, I happen to know, though, you were also quite involved with an organization called SCORE for quite some time.
Sure.
Say just a word about what SCORE is, and then talk about how did that fit into your thinking and planning and putting together this bird control operation.
Well, SCORE originally started in 1964 with the Eisenhower push to do something with the Small Business Administration. And they felt that it would be good to bring in the experience and the knowledge that retired people had, something that they could feed back to the community. And in the beginning, SCORE stood for Service Corps of Retired Executives. Well, it's come a long way since then. A lot of people, as you say, don't retire anymore. We're out there in the community, and most of us have a feeling that we've got some knowledge that would help some young person trying to get into business or help a business that's already been in business a while and may be having a problem of some kind. So we volunteered to do that. And I was the state director. I had 4 chapters that we worked with in Enid, Ardmore, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City. And those chapters are still very active, still actively helping a lot of people. And one of the things that we took to heart was what the mayor said here a couple of years ago. He said Oklahoma City is not so interested in attracting new business as taking care of those businesses that are already here. So it was a matter of helping the businesses. We're getting a lot of people that are coming in here from out of state. I don't know how much the population has increased. I think they were talking about the statistics in Canadian County, how much that's increased over the last 3 or 4 years, and they're bringing businesses with them. But as they do, they find they do have support from SCORE and from the SBA. One of the things that people will ask you for is, can I get a grant? Well, no, there are no grants available, but there is seed money available to people who have a good business plan. And I was able to help a lot by, one, being with a national corporation or national companies for a number of years, and then also having my own little business. And it was amazing how what we think of as very simply second nature, to tell somebody something that they didn't know that helps them immensely, to keep them from having to go through life to find that out.
Jim, we've only got a couple of minutes left, but I'm impressed with the statement you made from the Eisenhower era, talking about encouraging people to take advantage of the knowledge and experience of seniors.
Right.
I'm afraid we've got a group of young people today who feel like they know it all because they are maybe more skillful in computers than some of we old guys. But silver hair goes along with experience and knowledge that a lot of young people would be wise, I think, to kind of become a student of some of the seniors, don't you think?
Absolutely. And they're cutting out a great talented area. And I think it probably keeps us all alive and moving and well and makes us feel still useful. And I won't ever do anything or ask anybody to do something I wouldn't do. But if I'm out there hitting the streets and doing what I'm doing and building in new customers and this sort of thing, then somebody a lot younger than I am could go out and do it too. And one of the things that I have to say is that we've got a better, if we could get everybody to leave us alone from a government standpoint, we've got a better chance of making a tremendous business work today than ever. There are a lot of tools out there, but you never know what you're going to get into at networks. For instance, we're talking about bird net on buildings, but the oil companies hire us to put them over oil pits because the EPA requires that happens so that birds don't get in the net.
Jim Orebaugh, quite a guy. At the age of 65, retires and starts a brand new career, and 75, and, well, you're not 80 yet, but still going big and strong and good as ever. Man, it's good to see you again. I appreciate so much you coming in and talking with us and telling us truly seniors are not only young at heart and twice as smart, but very capable of keeping things going. I'm Glenn Howard, Senior World Radio. Gotta go. We'll see you again this same time next week. Until then, be kind to one another. Do something good for somebody, especially yourself. Bye-bye now.
I'm on the top of the world, looking down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love that I've found ever since you've been around.